To be one of the most epic takedowns I have ever seen on the corporate press. Quote, answer my question. Trump official turns the tables on CNN's Kaitlan Collins by citing lawsuit against her network.
In this video, Tim Pool covers a recent viral clip of Kaitlan Collins from CNN. Tim Pool is stunned at how badly she gets punked by U.S. Secretary of Veterans Affairs Doug Collins. With that, let's watch Tim Pool roast the hell out of CNN's Kaitlan Collins for getting clowned on live TV by Doug Collins.
This has to be one of the most epic takedowns I have ever seen on the corporate press. Quote, answer my question. Trump official turns the tables on CNN's Kaitlan Collins by citing lawsuit against her network. Collins tried deflecting in an interview with the Secretary of Veterans Affairs into Signalgate, to which he said, I'm not involved and can't answer. She tries again, bang! He immediately says, tell me why you defamed a veteran and were forced to pay out $5 million. Roll the tape.
My next source tonight is in the administration and is the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins. I should note, no relation, Mr. Secretary. Thank you so much for being here. You served in the Navy and the Air Force. How would you have felt if information like this was talked about in an unclassified group chat, if a Navy fighter pilot, is in the air?
Well, I think the one thing, Kaitlan, it's good to be with you tonight. I think the president and those involved in the chat, which I was not involved in the chat, have explained that. I trust the president's opinion on this. I trust what's been going on. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. My opinion is that my job is to take care of veterans in this country as they come out of service, and that's what I'm going to continue to do.
We heard from some of your former colleagues up on the Hill today, some Republicans who said they don't like how the administration is handling this, that they're kind of tying themselves in knots by saying it wasn't classified information. Do you believe that a mistake was made here, though, to have this?
I refuse call the whole issue with the Signal app Signalgate. That's a dumb media made-up name. Let's just be clear. It was extremely inappropriate and potentially dangerous for the Trump administration to be having conversations over classified information that had to do with our military on that Signal app. But all I keep hearing is no one will take accountability. No one will take accountability. From the jump, the National Security Advisor acknowledged that it was legitimate and acknowledged that he was the one who accidentally added Jeffrey Goldberg to the chat. Then they got upset when Donald Trump was asked about it very early on and said, I wasn't involved. I don't know anything about it. You might want to ask them. They're like, I can't believe he doesn't know anything about that. Isn't that a better answer than BSing? Isn't that a better answer than pretending that he knows what he's talking about when he doesn't? That's what every other politician would have done. I mean, it's no surprise, but if Donald Trump says, I don't know, which is a perfectly acceptable answer, they get all over him. If Donald Trump had given a long explanation, they would have picked it apart and something would have been wrong that he said. Anything that was incorrect, say he doesn't know what's going on. He just can't win. Again, I don't downplay the seriousness that this can never happen again, but I trust this administration to handle it appropriately. Thank goodness no lives were lost. There were no major consequences from it. And you learn from the mistake. I think for the most part in the Trump administration, they have honorable folks and they're going to investigate it, figure out how to never let it happen again. And that's that. It's over. To me, this is a good sign that they're talking about this so much, by the way, because it means they literally have nothing else to complain about. Because that's all Democrats do these days is complain. Never offer solutions. Never say that how they do something better or point out the fact that this app came preloaded on their phone. And I'd say odds are very good that this was used all the time by Biden officials. So this is a story, but it's not a story that needs to go on for weeks. It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
This conversation to add a reporter and to have it on an unsupported, classified group setting.
Kaitlan, as I've just told you, I've just answered the question. I wasn't part of it. And, I'm not going to speculate more than what the president's already talked about and those who've been involved have talked about. But we'd love to talk about the veterans.
Yeah, and I do have questions about the veterans, but given what we saw with the group chat and how this was used, you are a member of the cabinet. You obviously know these other members, several of them who were in there. Is this typical for the cabinet to have conversations over Signal? Is this something that you use?
Well, Kaitlan, Senator, you undoubtedly do not want to talk about the VA. I have a question as VA Secretary. As Cabinet, I want to ask you, because I've been curious about this, because my job is to take care of veterans, and I would like to know why CNN is hostile to veterans, especially one in Florida, where you just had a $5 million defamation suit taking offense at a veteran who was trying to help people. In fact, one of your employees actually said, we're going to nail him. I have a question for you, Kaitlan. Is that employee still employed? Are you really concerned about veterans? So if we don't want to talk about veterans now, you want to talk about everything else, I'd like to hear from CNN as the veteran cabinet secretary, why CNN seems to have a problem with veterans.
Well, Mr. Secretary, respectfully, my question was about whether or not you as a member of the cabinet use this. And respectfully, I'm conducting the investigation. And I do have a lot of questions for you on Veterans Affairs, but I don't think it would be unwarranted to ask if you as a member of the cabinet.
I've already answered. And if you want to continue this like this, that's fine. But there are VA employees who are working very hard. There are veterans who get their care from the VA and they get their benefits from the VA. And it does me no good to speculate on something that I've already asked and answered. So
if you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
I've asked and answered your question. Why don't you answer mine? Are you still, is this person still employed who said they were going to nail one of my veterans? Who you had to do a $5 million award from a jury because of defamation, and then you settled the case. Answer my question.
Respectfully, sir, I'm asking the questions here, and I have no involvement in what you're referencing there. But if you don't want to answer the question about whether or not it's commonplace for secretaries in the cabinet to use Signal, you are running the Veterans Affairs, and we do have a lot of questions about that because there's been big things happening. You and I were just talking about this before this interview started, and I told you I'd get to these questions about Veterans Affairs. You don't want to answer that one. We'll talk about what the VA did announce that they were suspending $2 billion in
Epic takedown from Doug Collins. No relation to Kaitlan Collins. Take a look at this from January. CNN settles with U.S. Navy veteran after defamation verdict. This is just 2 months ago. $5 million. They ran a 2021 segment on evacuations in Afghanistan. And
let's be clear. Kaitlan Collins clearly doesn't care about veterans because she has a Secretary of Veterans Affairs on there and she wants to talk about something he had nothing to do with. Then when he answers her, she keeps prodding him and he says, I wasn't on that. I don't know what else there is to tell you. And she wants to ask just meaningless little questions so she hopes she can get a soundbite or a gotcha. And Doug Collins is like, no, we got a lot of things going. And Doug Collins is like, no. I've answered that. We've got a lot going on at the VA. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about veterans. Now, what I've heard during the Doge cuts, the Democrats will use veterans. They'll use the word veterans and pretend like they care and say veterans are losing their jobs. That's when they care, when it aligns with their narrative, but not here. Why is everyone that's a correspondent to the White House for CNN just insufferable? I guess that's a prerequisite for the job, but it would still be refreshing if just one of them was a little objective and had a little respect for these people that come on their show and give them their time. Anyway, let's wrap the video.
They were claiming this guy was basically a scammer. Following the verdict, the two parties settled the case as punitive damages phase was underway. We remain proud of our journalists and are 100% committed to strong, fearless, and fair-minded reporting. Really? They said they wanted to get this guy. They were going to nail this guy. He didn't do anything wrong. It was a legitimate business. That's the reporting. CNN decided they were going to turn this guy into a villain. You know what I love about this exchange? Respectfully, I'm asking the questions. Yo, homie already told you. I can't speculate. And you know what I got to say to Doug Collins? He respectfully answered her question. The first question she asks. And he says, can't really talk about that because I wasn't involved. You know, the president has issued statements, so I can't really speculate as to what was going on. She keeps on going. It's a dirty game. They want videos like this. They want resting joker face Kaitlan Collins to get into it with people like Doug Collins so that they can generate viral clips because they got nothing else. There you go, man. I was not involved.
I'm glad to know that I'm on the same page with Tim Pool. I almost summarized exactly what I've been trying to say this entire video, right? They want to badger people like Doug Collins to try to squeeze some juice out of, again, not that it's not a big deal, but not a huge story, the whole thing with the Signal app. There's just nothing really there, especially from Doug Collins. He doesn't have anything to say about it. But what I like most what Tim says, and again, it just reiterates something I already said, it said they need this because they have nothing else. And by they, that means the establishment, it means the Democrat Party, it means CNN, it means the legacy media. They got nothing right now. The American people are supporting Donald Trump and what he's doing. But we want to hear from you. What did you all think about this takedown by Doug Collins on Kaitlan Collins? Do you think it was as big a own as Tim Pool said, or do you think he's blowing it out of proportion? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.